The imagination actually has quite a powerful effect on not only the body, but also our direction in society. Everything that we want to perceive, we start to conceive. What we perceive ourselves to be with this smart, intelligent sort of life form that we are still dominantly under the control of our fight, flight, freeze response sort of thing, our most primitive. So that reptilian part of the brain perceives the world in what is safe and what is unsafe. So if we have grown up in an environment that is very unsafe, then we start to perceive the world in a very unsafe way. Therefore, if we're perceiving the world in a very unsafe way, we're going to conceive the world in a very unsafe way as well. So what we're perceiving as fear, we start to imagine these situations where it is a fearful environment that we're living in, when the environment itself could be quite harmless. Now, imagine that perception and that conceiving in the body. We're perceiving unwellness, or we're perceiving like we're in a constant state of unsafety. So what it starts to create in the body is all these cortisol, all this inflammation, all these release or overproduction of hormones where the body starts to get unbalanced. And it's probably sometimes simple as releasing what is keeping us unbalanced to getting us back into a balance. So our imagination can actually get to a state where we start to worry ourselves sick. If we can't actually control a situation or can't actually respond to something logically, or in a sense of where we can actually enact change, then that change starts to happen within us. So if we can't do something about a fire that's across the world, we can't do something about some situation that's a few suburbs away, or some terrible accident or a flood or whatever sort of thing, then if we can't enact change there, then the stress, the overwhelm starts to happen in our body. So once again, if we have all this overwhelmed, and that's how we're going to perceive the world, and that's how we're going to conceive our reactions to things. And I say reactions to things because a reaction is something that happens instant. Fear happens, I'm going to react, be it running away, be it an attack sort of thing. Whereas responding starts to put in more of that wait time to actually allow thinking. And the reason we're reacting so much is because of the amygdala hijack. It hijacks the amygdala, once again, that most reptilian part of our brain, like the anger, the fear, all that part of the brain, that hijacks our cognitive part of the brain, so our thinking part of the brain. So all of our worst case scenarios are now coming to light, and we are reacting. Now, imagine a world, once again, if we can balance and release some of that negative emotions and get us more into, hey, that's stressful, but now I've got a bit of time to actually think about it rather than react to it. I've seen something on the news and gone, well, there's not much I can do about it. I feel for these people, but I might turn off the news, and because I feel like I'm getting a bit stressed here. I feel like I'm getting a bit overwhelmed, or I feel like I'm getting angry about some person that I've never met sort of thing. But because the news has told me they're such a bad person, I feel that I need to hate this person. And hate is such a strong emotion. It can overwhelm the body. And if we're hating things, then how we perceive the world is how we're going to conceive the world sort of thing. We're going to conceive the world in a world of hate, just not who we are. So our imagination will actually go into overdrive, and that overdrive is that overwhelmed feeling. We're overwhelmed by emotions. We're overwhelmed by what can we do to survive here? And that's what it comes down to. Ultimately, even though we're such intelligent people, we will always go back to that primitive, how do I survive? Be it, how do I put food on the table, to how do I fight another person for toilet paper? How do I, all these sort of situations. It seems ridiculous to an onlooker, but the onlooker is not caught up in that amygdala hijack. They're looking at it in a rational brain. And in any situation, you might be caught up where someone else is looking at you going, well, I wouldn't have reacted like that sort of thing. I wouldn't have reacted like that. You don't get to guess your reactions. You're caught up in it because that amygdala hijack has happened. And once the amygdala hijack wears off and you get back into a cognitive state, that's when you start to say, why did I do that? That's not me. Of course, it's not you. It's your most primitive part of your brain fighting for your survival. And if we're in a continued state of survival, how we perceive the world is how we're going to conceive the world. So we're always going to see the world in a fearful state. We're always going to see ourselves in needing to keep ourselves safe. But what we perceive as keeping ourselves safe is actually constricting our bodies, constricting our hearts, our lungs, our stomach, and overflowing with stress and inflammation. So we actually start to worry ourselves sick of how do we keep ourselves safe. And while we're worrying ourselves sick on how to keep ourselves safe, we're actually becoming sick in that worry. And a lot of this might be a real thing, or it could be an imaginary thing, similar to an anxiety. I have to go for an interview. What will they ask me, sort of thing? I'm going to perceive all these questions. I'm going to, how will I respond, sort of thing? I've got to think through all my answers, which they might only ask about 2 of those. Or you might flow through naturally and easily, or you might freeze. You might like go, I don't know what to say, sort of thing, because we're trying to perceive what is a threat that is about to happen. We've seen something on the news or someone's told us something. So we now have to perceive how we're actually going to keep ourselves safe. Our imagination gets the better of us. And when the event finally happens, it's either going to be that scary or it's not going to be that scary at all. Or you might find you've got a whole closet full of toilet paper for something that didn't actually come to fruition, but it was your way of keeping yourself safe. So how we perceive the world is how we're going to conceive it, how we're going to create it. So are we seeing the world? Are we imagining the world in a very fearful state? The world will affect you. So it's how you respond to that. And do you overthink? Do you overanalyze? Do you worry yourself sick to the point where you become sick? So when there is something, whether it be some COVID stuff or whether it be a common cold or it be like there are other infections that still exist in the world, sort of thing, some other thing that comes along where your immunity is so worn down because you're so burnt out from worrying yourself sick that it's just going to go, well, this is an easy defense to jump over. into the immunity it goes, sort of thing. Or are you going to be responding by going, this is creating fear? I can actually let this go by using techniques similar, like with EFT tapping and soma breath and other techniques out there, sort of thing, or booking in with a qualified, like somatic experiencing, for example, to actually let these emotions go, sort of thing. So when illness does come, it's facing a strong immune system. What we perceive, we conceive in this world. So we are normally trained to fear the world in our upbringing, whether it be intentional or unintentional, direct or indirect. And the world itself is not a scary place. There are scary things that happen, but if that scary stuff has already happened and we're still holding on to that fear, then everything then on from that scary moment will become our perceptions of the world. We'll feel unsafe in the world. By letting that fear go, we return to our normal happy state. Because even in a fearful upbringing, we've probably had moments of happiness or love. So it is possible to have that out there. There are good people out there. So connecting to that goodness, both external and within, and releasing the fear, we then start to see that, hey, it is not a scary world that we live in. And we can actually respond to things by actually not constricting or restricting ourselves, but by responding freely and openly within our emotions. Keeping a stiff upper lip or suppressing things is normally the first signs of rigor mortis, for example. We don't want stiffness in our body. We want to be flexible and flowing. I'm Dan from Eflowtion. I offer EFT tapping and soma breath online. So if you're somewhere in the world and want to book in and release some of these emotional confines, emotional stresses that are in the body, then be it with EFT or soma breath, I'm happy to guide you through an EFT tapping or sonograph session. So check out eflowtion.com for that. So till next time, stay free, stay happy, stay healthy, and imagine a world where you are in a happy, healthy state. And who knows, what you imagine, what you perceive, you might conceive. So till next time, I'm Dion from Eflowtion.